Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Pam. And so I'll call the meeting of the Service Committee to order, and we do have a quorum, and we'll move to adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
So have a motion and a second?
Second.
Thanks, Will. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? The agenda is adopted. And then that takes us to item 3, the Midlands Transit Rider Association. Pam, do we have anybody to
No,
report from
ma'am.
them? Okay. All right, so then we'll move to adoption of the minutes. And before I ask for a motion on that, I want to apologize to Pam because there are a couple of things that I should have read more carefully and caught and asked my questions ahead of time, but I'm going to do it now because I didn't do it then. So if on page 5 in the discussion of the passenger amenities program, it speaks of a curve permit. Is that a curb with a B or a VE? Zach, Zane, can you tell us? Is a curve CURVE?
Yes, sorry, what page was that on again?
It's on page 5. It's 7A in the minutes. And it says the curve permit we're waiting on. This is talking about at Fort Jackson.
It would have been either it's probably supposed to be construction permit.
Well, do you want to just could we just I'm going to make these as amendments to the minutes. So could we just eliminate the word curve and
Sure.
just say the permit they were waiting?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be the first amendment. Pam, will you help me keep track of these?
Yes.
All right, and then on page 6, hold on. I'm trying to manage my technology better today than I did the other day. All right, on page 6, it was the D, the recommendation to the board on revisions to key personnel. And this is not an amendment to the minutes. It's just to acknowledge to the committee that we didn't overlook where that tells us that it would be on the July meeting agenda, but we are still waiting for that package of proposed changes to come from the meetings between RAPDEV and our legal staff. And we've not yet received those. So that's why that's not on your agenda this time. I just wanted you to be aware of that. And then I just have one more on page 7. And this is in the RAPDEV operations report. And it says it's talking about that the customer complaints for the months of May was at 4.68%. complaints per 10,000 riders. And then it says which exceeds the goal of 6, but really it should say it does not exceed the goal of 6. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so could we just amend that, Pam, to just say, have it read that it does not exceed the goal of 6?
Yes.
All right, so with those two amendments, eliminating the word curve out of the amenities report and changing the wording in the on page 7 that says does not exceed the goal of 6 in the report on complaints. With those two amendments, could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
I have a motion from Mr. Brennan, and I still have a second.
I second.
Mr. Burgess seconds. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Hi,
Aye.
and Miss Mood.
Yes, I hear you. Allison.
Hi. Yes, sorry, I joined at like probably 12:03, so I
Okay.
missed the roll call.
Well, we've got you recorded now. Glad you're with us. Thank you.
Great. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Miss Tracy, I've noted that you are in the meeting as well as Ms. Robinson and
Yep.
Ms. Gleason.
Oh, great. That's good. Glad to have all of you. So hearing no opposition to approving the minutes with those amendments, then the minutes are approved. Okay, on number 5, we've not had any new matters referred from the Board of Directors. And so we'll move to the discussion and and action items under number 6. And the first one is to hear an update on the passenger amenities programs. And I can see that Mr. McGee's with us.
Yes, good afternoon. In the past month, we have received approval for stop number 1236, which is a shelter inside the,
Mr. McGee, we can't hear you.
okay, I'll speak up, but the AC is running. In the past month, we received approval for stop 1236, which is a shelter inside the VA hospital complex. And on top of that, we received we were provided 7 new bench locations from Eric Harris to begin working on. Those are currently in design. And on top of that, AOS still has some sites under construction, but the majority of those are just awaiting the next shelter order.
And Zane, it looks like the biggest delay is just in receiving the shelters and benches themselves. Is that right?
That is correct. And that,
So
actually,
what are you hearing about that?
we actually do have some benches that are available at the Comet, and that's why we've started on these new bench sites. But the shelters, yes, we are still waiting on those. I believe Eric could probably provide more information on where those stand currently.
Eric,
Absolutely.
you want to chime in there, Eric? Tell us about the supply.
Yes, we from the last time I spoke with Scott from Tolar, it's reported that the shelter should be here anytime between September, October, maybe early October. But right now, as Zane mentioned, we're just trying to prioritize some of the inventory that we still have in stock, which is mostly benches.
Okay. Does anyone else on the committee have a question for Mr. McGee? Okay, if not, then we thank you for that report, and we'll accept that as information and move to the transit operations report. Mr. Bell, Mr. Smith.
Yes, good afternoon, Ms. Wood and the rest of the board. I know in previous months we've had more detailed focus on particular items, and so as things start to improve and continue to improve, I must say, I want to request from you, Ms. Wood, and the rest of the board, and the comment how we would like to proceed with the report itself in regards to this session at the Service Committee. If you'd like for me to address each slide of the actual presentation, I can, or if you'd like me to stay focused on particular items.
I think we're ready for you to just walk us through the full report, because Pam and I worked some on trying to simplify our agenda, because I felt like the way we had it arranged before, we had a lot of redundancy in it. And so I think if you walk us through the full report, we can focus any questions we have on items of particular interest or concern. Is that acceptable to the rest of the committee?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So if we continue on, if we go to slide 3 of the actual report, the executive summary, obviously we are continuing to do our operational maintenance and activities for significant development of key performance indicators. As you'll notice, as we get to the end of this report, the key performance indicators are trending well. One of the notable factors of this slide here is the fact that we've initiated a technology assessment within Momentum, as well as ongoing efforts with Swiftly in order to improve some of the running times and schedule times to assist in the on-time performance. I know that Mr. Hubble will address in more detail that part of the on-time performance aspect. We continue to work with strategic mapping to identify unique needs in order to improve the system's performance. And bus appearance refurbishment campaign is underway, and we're looking to have that completed in August 1st. Part of that campaign consists of actually polishing out all the water stains from the windows, the chromes on the vehicles, including the wheels. We're looking that this may be an annual process of deep cleaning, depending upon how well our wash rack performs now that we've finalized the repairs. Moving on to slide number 4. This is the COVID slide. Most notably, I've made changes to this slide to reflect the vaccination process. As reported earlier this week in our ad hoc meeting for COVID, we are trending upward in that area. We've got over 106 employees that have been vaccinated, so that 71% of our workforce right now have been vaccinated, where we have 7, which is roughly 5%, is looking to get the vaccinations. In addition to that, the detailing and fogging of the vehicles are doing well, as well as the interior cleaning, as you can see there, the totals, detailing at 457, as well as fogging at 508, and the interior and exterior cleanings at 1722.
Okay, if you'll pause a moment, Mr. Bell, I think
Yes.
Mr. Fergus wanted to be
Yes,
recognized.
Mr. Bell, before you move on past this COVID, since we have additional information on that, and that variant is seemed to be hitting South Carolina now, maybe we need to pass on what we have to him to let employees know they're jeopardizing a job with this will not be vaccinated.
Well,
we need to,
Yes, definitely. I know we are having talks from RITP Dev standpoint. The executive team and our legal team are working right now, and there'll be some further development in that area in the week to come.
well, and I
No,
was
not
just
in-
going to
we-
update the rest of the
yeah.
committee by letting you know that the discussion, the conversation that was mentioned earlier, were just was a meeting with just a couple of us from this committee, but the COVID ad hoc committee and the legal staff to talk about how we might make some headway in the 19% that show on your slide is not shared or do not plan to be vaccinated. And we're trying to explore all the options for that. So I'm going to let that discussion stay where it is because that group is really focused on the process, and we're working with the legal staff to come up with recommendations. And when we have those, I mean, this committee and I expect what those recommendations will be heard by the full board. If there are any other actions we need to take from the comment to increase the number of vaccinations of our staff. So do you have any other comments or questions regarding that? But we're like Mr. Fergus said, we are sensitive to the fact that we still do have staff who are not vaccinated, and we're trying to look at what are the most productive ways to protect both staff and the public by reducing that number.
Okay.
Okay. Ready to move on to the customer service?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That is slide number 6 of the actual packet itself. And this is the customer feedback portion. For the month of June, we had 52 total complaints. Of the 52 total complaints, they were broken down as 5 being safety, reliability at 24, and friendliness at 8. And with these numbers, we continue, of course, to stay below the targeted goal of 6 per 10,000 customers, which is, again, another target achieved per the KPI. Any questions with respect to the feedback? The next slide rolls into customer comments. Again, this is a little bit more detailed, outlining each of the categories that are currently being tracked per the contract. And as you can see here, it shows the bars of 8 at safe, 5 at safe, and 24 at reliability, 8 at friendliness, 6 at cleanliness and comfort, and planning services at 2, and general comments at 7.
Mr. Bell, I would just ask you to if you can elaborate on any more detail, because in the largest column, which is reliability, which I expect is also tied to the on-time performance. But does your analysis, or Eric, if you have anything to add to this about the analysis of what comprises that largest number of complaints?
Yeah, so the reliability is focused around on-time performance, whether buses are running early or late, or there are detours, last-minute detours due to construction. That tends to be the main focus of reliability complaints. If Eric would like to elaborate, that's fine as well.
Yes, this is exactly what Maurice was saying. We're still working through several different things right now to make sure we can improve the reliability.
Any other comments or questions from the staff, from the committee on the customer complaints? Okay, want to continue, Mr. Bell?
As we move on to maintenance, we're looking at a preventive maintenance program. This is the PMIs, which is the preventive maintenance inspections. And for the month of June, they conducted 46. All of this is based on oil changes, when vehicles are, of course, hitting their marker for those kinds of services. And so we were able to obtain 46 for the month of June. The next one has to do with the PM results. These are miles between roll calls. The goal here is 15,000, and we were just shy of that goal at finishing at 14,359. Total miles for the month was at 272,828, and we, of course, we ended up having 18 roll calls. Roll calls have to do between having to, of course, service vehicles in the field due to mechanical issues or other challenges that constitute a roll call request.
And can you say something else about what those 18 look like? Are they matters of mechanical breakdowns, or I know sometimes you get spills and other kinds of things that have to be called. Do you know what that picture looks like?
I don't have the details in front of me. What I can tell you, if there's challenges with AC systems, challenges with wheelchair ramps not unfolding correctly, or other mechanical challenges within the vehicle, it could be head sign issues. It could be a result of an accident as well, where the vehicle was not able to finish the route, and they had to, of course, remove the vehicle from service.
Okay. Because, of course, what my interest is in, are any of those preventable in terms of just what you were describing of preventive maintenance?
Well, what I can do, I don't want to misquote, and so I can start bringing some of those statistics and details to the next service committee meeting. I don't have
just
that
to be able to describe what that picture looks like.
Yes.
I think that would be helpful.
Yes, most definitely. We'll add that in for the next month.
Okay.
Maintenance campaigns, that's our next slide. Right now we have 8 vehicles out of the 12 new flyers that are coming and dedicated to the university service. The other 4 are scheduled to be arriving towards the end of July. We recently received some reports that they're working through a coding issue on the engines of the final 4. And so there's some developments there that are going to be ongoing over the next few weeks. The operator barriers, those are 99% complete. The last ones are the trolleys. Of course, the trolleys are a little bit unique in nature. I should say not a little bit, but a lot comparative to the other buses. And so they're working through those unique differences to get those completed as well. The removal of unsanitary cloth seating and the replacement of the new Easy Clean are scheduled to take place into August. That is being done by the seating company that contracted out. We have all the equipment here, and so there's definitely going to be a strong campaign and helping out that team to finish the removal of the inserts. And again, if you notice, on all of the vehicles, they have an insert color-coded insert that can be replaced. And these are going to allow us to be a little bit faster with our cleaning process and more sanitary for the customers overall. The maintenance specific safety and training program is underway. And most of all, again, the bus and body wrap evaluation. In the coming weeks, we are going to have the vendor come out and evaluate the condition of all of the wraps in order to give us suggestions for improvement, as well as trying to, of course, maintain the condition of these wraps for the long term. So with the refurbishment of the wash rack, and of course our cleaning crew doing the water spot removal and chrome polishing, we're looking forward to seeing some more vibrant buses, so to speak, in the fleet in the months to come.
Okay. Any questions on that segment of Mr. Bell's report? Okay, let's move on to the on-time performance.
On-time performance has not changed as much, as we all know. I know Mr. Hubbell's portion of the meeting today will address a lot of the OTP for fixed route. We finished with 42% based on our numbers, comparative to 40% from the previous month. But for paratransit, we continue to do real well, and the month of June was at 24.61%. It only decreased by 0.39% comparative to May. So paratransit is streaming very well for us on OTP.
Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir.
I was in a conference with Mr. Smith yesterday, and my question was, if our bus design is for all the buses that get to the transit center at the same time and leave the same time for transfers, to get to 42%, that means 60% of those buses are not arriving at the transit center on time, and that's not true. So that means that all the data we getting on time performance and the way we have these routes designed, we need to go back to the drawing board. And when you throw the soda cap connector in there, we ought to park those buses like yesterday. You know, we have empty buses running all through town with no passengers on them. And that doesn't look good at the comment. But this design, we're trying to make something work with this pulse system that doesn't work anywhere in the country.
Well, let me see if I can take your two concerns, Mr. Fergus, because I think I want to hear, as Mr. Bell pointed out, what from on the action plan regarding the data analytics, trying to help us get to the pieces of the on-time performance, because I'm aware that the arrival at the transfer station is not the only point at which we measure on-time performance. So we might get some clarity then, and then maybe Eric can elaborate some on the ridership in his ridership report on the soda cap connector.
But Ms. Mood, my concern is, if you've lived in Columbia for any length of time, that statistic we are trying to get is moot, because the whole system needs to be revamped.
Well, I hope that's what we're getting to in that the action plan. I think that's what we're aiming for. So could you hold? I don't want to discount your concerns, but I want to see if we can hear whether there's more for us to learn today, and see what kind of headway we're making on that. Because I'm with you that the on-time performance is, my key concern, as everybody here knows. Okay, go ahead. You want to go ahead and finish up, Mr. Bell?
Yes, if we're good on the OTP slide, I know, Mr. Fergus, that Mr. Hubbell's presentation will address a lot of your concerns in that area. So we'll be able to help you out in that aspect. If we go down to onboarding and ridership numbers, the month of June, we finished at 112,840 for total ridership. That is down 22% compared to June of last year. As you can see, a main corridor and of course local continue to trend as strongest, along with the connectors and shuttles. So that's where we are right now. And then of course, in the previous month's comparison, when you're looking at June of this year and May, we're only down 3% from May in the overall ridership. So the month of June again finished at 112,875, where in the month of May we finished at 117,021. So that there is the previous month's comparison. And when you're looking at the top,
we'll have a chance to listen to Eric's analysis of the ridership just in the next item. So I'm going to hold my questions about that.
the top passenger boardings are Route 81 on Board River at 15,296, and then Route 501 Two Notch at 12,356, and Route 101 North Main at 10,868. Those are our strongest performing routes right now.
And what about the route along Taylor and Forest Drive? That's usually one of our high performing routes. Where does that fall?
I don't have that one here, but we can add that to this list.
Okay, and Eric may be able to add that information.
Okay. Without any other questions on the ridership numbers, we can move on to safety. We ended up finishing the month at a preventable accident of 3 for preventables, and that is a total collisions for 100,000, putting us at a number of 1.05. Again, that is putting us at a good target. We're below our target, and we continue to trend well in that area. Our safety meetings that we've been conducting every month are producing some results and good feedback from operators to help improve some safety concerns in the system. And of course, with the collaboration, the comment in those meetings, we've been able to address a lot of items that weren't normally addressed in the past. And so we continue to see, we look forward to seeing that continue in the months to come. You can see there again on the safety performance slide, where we had our total incidents. Again, I'm happy to say that some of the incidents, majority of the incidents that we had were non-preventables. Unfortunate for some of our operators, of course, being the recipient of these incidents, but from a safe driving standpoint, we continue as an agency to perform well in that area.
Okay, it was a little bit surprising to me to see that the incidents of all of the incidents were deadhead incidents. Can you shed some light on that?
Well, deadhead has to include when we have operators leaving the yard to perform what we call a in-service switch out, where they drive a sedan to like Comet Central in order to switch out where they're relieving an operator on a route, and that operator is getting into the sedan and returning to the yard. So that would be considered deadhead incident type of a situation. And unfortunately, we had a very significant one last month where unfortunately the other party's brakes failed. So that's a good example of what a deadhead incident would be.
Okay, so that's the one with injuries?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Anyone? I have a question, please.
Yes, Ms. Gleaton.
My question is, what about that 701? I never see it. It's always a lot of people on that bus. That's not one of the buses that have considered as a lot of ridership.
All right, let's go back and look at that slide.
Walmart.
That's the route.
That's the one I was asking about, the Forest Drive one, right? So I'm counting on Eric to help us fill in that blank for us. Can you let's when we get through this, we'll ask Eric to see if he can add something to that. Ms. Gleaton.
Okay. Because I know that bus is always pretty full. That's why
Yeah,
I'm saying-
that was my thinking too. Right. All right, so you're gonna move Mr. Bell to the HR staffing and recruitment.
Yeah, the staffing and recruitment side, we are actually doing very well in that area. I'm real excited about that. The addition of Courtney to the staff is paying huge dividends for us. Right now, our fixed route operators are at 96. And of course, at the time of the generating of this report, they were at 96. We continue to add to our workforce. We recently conducted our run cut on the operators. We're real happy with the new runs that are scheduled to go into service next week. And we also now have a very adequate extra board, and we continue to recruit in order to prepare for any, any challenges in employment where folks decide they want to move on. So this is going to continue to be a strong focus for us, but I'm very excited to see where our numbers are lying right now and as they continue to grow.
I had a couple of questions on this. On the pre-screening, I mean, that's a big number on the fixed route pre-screening, which looks like it, that we have a lot of interest. And so what would you expect? I mean, is that from the number that are pre-screened to the ones that actually get on board, you know, there's a big difference. Now, is that what you would expect, or because you're not really recruiting for that many, or is there a deficit in the people who are being screened that stands out?
Historically, in the industry, you lose roughly 50% of your pool at every step of the hiring process. So where we may receive, hypothetically, 100 applications, we may only see 50 of those make it to training. And of course, as we're setting for the training class, and we're going through the background checks and the drug screens, we may lose 50% of that, and bringing down the training class to 25. And then, of course, by the time they graduate, if they're not able to obtain their Class B license, then of course you may lose 50% of your training class. So that's the reason why the pre-screening is so high compared to the actual hires. And in every city, there's a different process of uniqueness and to try and combat against the loss of the pool, the selection pool. And here, Courtney has been instrumental in creating a partnership with Sage Trucking Company as well as SC Works. And so they are helping us do some of the pre-screening in advance of us conducting interviews, and that helps out. As we go into the background checks and we go into the of course, pre-employment physical and drug screen, of course, those are going to present some challenges for some, but we have been very successful with her on board, and we owe a lot to her efforts right now. So it's a good report.
Okay, and what does the word termed mean? What does that mean?
That's terminated.
Terminated, and that's
terminated.
because of the drug screen? Okay.
Yes, or not being able to make the training, complete the training, or background check.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
Yes, can I ask, this is a little off topic, but can I ask Mr. Bell a question?
Sure.
Has he had any drivers to report to him that they tested positive for COVID, but they didn't turn it into the comment to Rapdale because they don't want to quarantine for 14 days?
I
Has he
have
had-
not. No, I have not.
Rumors?
No, I have not, sir. We have not had any reports like that. We haven't had any occurrences of that nature.
Oh, okay. I would kind of check on that because that's something that kind of drifted, and I don't know whether it's valid or not, you know?
Sure
But
will.
we are doing any checking, so that could very well be true.
So what I'm understanding is that we have a self-reporting system in terms of people testing positive. And the only other way we might pick that up outside of that would be on the like on temperature screening. So unless someone had symptoms that involved a fever, we wouldn't have a way of detecting that aside from their self-reporting. Is that right?
No,
Well, yes, and when you're looking
Right.
at the pre-appointment screening, especially the physical and drug screen, we work with a company called Concentra. And Concentra is very thorough in their process. So if the individual is of course, showing signs of COVID or what have you, they're not going to go through the process of conducting the physical itself. So we haven't had anyone in that situation during the pre-employment aspect come up positive. And of course, we still operate with our existing employees to make sure that they are letting us know, and if they have to go into a quarantine, and that has been far and few between over the last few months.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right.
No,
The one thing to keep note is that we do still have our on-site temperature and mass sensors. So when they
Yes.
come into our training class environment and of course behind the wheel training, they're still being screened from that standpoint that we at the front doors and of course the doors leading into our yard or from our yard. So we do have that pre-screening process.
Yeah, that's why this virus is such a tricky thing, because it just doesn't produce symptoms in everybody, and that leaves us at a disadvantage in trying to pick up any positives through those means. And we know that it's possible for people to get through the screen without exhibiting any symptoms, for sure. So that's one of the challenges that we all have with this virus. Okay.
So moving on to our key performance indicators, we've spoken a little bit about on-time performance. And of course, our goal for a fixed route is 85%. We finished out in the 40s. And the paratransit is a goal of 90%, and we finished at 94.61%. The miles between roll calls is at 15,000, and we finished at 14,778. And the customer complaints is at 6 per 10,000 customers, and we finished the month at 4.2. Preventable accidents per 100,000 miles was at 2 for a 1.05. So again, from a KPI standpoint, we were able to achieve 3 out of the 5 goals that are required for the contract.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Bell. Any further questions or comments for Mr. Bell? All right. Thank you, sir. And we can move to 6C, which is the ridership analysis. Eric?
Yes. First off, thank you to members of the committee, as always. For this month of June, we have several routes trending in the right direction, similar to what Mr. Bell reported. 93X is doing really well. That's I-26 Express Route. 44X Lower Richland. 83L St. Andrews. 47 is the Eastover Gaston Reflex route. So we have a lot that looks really good in the month of June. One of the lowest performing routes is Route 76, which is down 33%. Nothing to be alarmed about, but it's our Fort Jackson route. We also, just speaking to what we were discussing earlier, Taylor and that corridor, Taylor and Forest Drive, that is our Route 401. And what we have is 8,710 passengers that utilize that route throughout for the month of June. But it's up 4% from last month. And in February, actually was up 14%. So you're correct in your assessment that it is one of our highest performing routes, and which will always pretty much be our 3-digit routes, the 101, 301, 401, and so on and so forth. In my apology, I think I said this was Route 401. I believe this is 701. Yeah. All right.
And Eric, will we begin to get the detailed by route reports in our packet? Can we get those again?
Absolutely. Something that we have been in communication about. We want to make sure that we get those in a reasonable amount of time to put those in your packet so you can review them.
Yeah, because I miss
Absolutely.
being able, I miss being able to check on specific routes, and so I would welcome that. And if you have some of the most recent information on that and can just send it to us separate from the meeting packet for the most recent that you have, I'd love to see that.
Absolutely. I'll work on getting that to you.
Okay.
All right. As far as Saturday and Sunday service, starting with Saturday, SodaCat 1 is pretty consistent in ridership, averaging about 52 riders per month, which is not ideal, but it's still telling from a data standpoint. So in so many words, Route 1 has pretty much returned back to normal prior to the pandemic. But of course, it's still trending in the right direction. Only time would tell what the outcome would be. As people,
So you were saying 52 riders in a month on the Route 1.
On Route 1, yep. Yes, ma'am. And far as on Route 47, which is coming up again for a Saturday level of service, east over Gadsden area, it's pretty steady in growth and showing a lot of consistency there. Route 301, we saw no significant drop in ridership, but we're still not clear. Well, we did see a significant drop, I apologize, in Route 301. It's around 44% drop, but we're still not clear why that occurred. But I'm pretty sure by next month, we will be back to, I guess, somewhat what we would consider a normal number of service. But as far as Sunday, ridership is down altogether, but again, nothing significant that stands out from a service standpoint. And that concludes the report for weekday, Saturday, and Sunday levels of service.
And is that a further drop on Sunday? Because I know we sort of anticipated we might get a drop when we started on Sunday riders when we restarted fares. But is this a something more than the first month, or is this really the first full month of data on that?
Yeah, so this is, I want to say, the second full month. We started to reduce fares in April. So May and June would be that trend, but it's not a significant decrease. I'm not seeing numbers that are exceeding 30% or 40%, anything of that nature. So it just seems as if ridership is just down as a whole for the month of June.
Okay. Anybody have questions for Eric on the ridership? All right. Thanks, Eric. So then we'll move on to the 6D, the action plan, Mr. Bell and Mr. Hubbard on the data analytics.
Thank you, Ms. Mood. Good afternoon to you and the balance of the service committee. I've got just a few slides if I can share my screen. It's been a busy couple weeks. Just to provide you an update of where we've been over the last month since we last briefed the committee in June on two issues: the technologies assessment and data. I'll call it data calibration, and then how that impacts on-time performance, both on the street and from a data perspective. Talk about next steps, and then of course entertain any open discussion we may have with the committee. The achievements over the last month, we implemented an interim invoicing process beginning with the April 2021 invoice from RATP Dev. We met and collaborated on a process that we collectively believe provides adequate information to support the both invoicing and obviously the payment of those invoices between the COMET and RAPDev. We did complete just recently the very in-depth assessment by a firm called N-Momentum that RATP Dev sponsored to look at this, and this graphic here, the myriad of technologies that are employed at the COMET to look at the technologies, identify the potential gaps, also the potential redundancy and overlap, multiple sources of truth, so to speak, and what these technologies, the sustainability costs of these various technologies, so that we can assess, value going forward. They completed that in early July. They were on site, interviewed many Comet and RapDev team members, and then we are scheduled to receive their final report and briefing on July 27th, and we'll begin to digest the results of that report. It may be a bit premature to provide the committee with our conclusions at the next meeting, but depending on what the recommendations are, we will be calendaring that in for a future meeting. On the on-time performance achievements, we did complete the execution of an annual subscription with a firm called Swiftly that provides the runtime. They provide a very robust runtime analysis. This process that we're working through with them now that we have utilization of their software. It is identifying several data conflicts, one of which I'll talk about here in just a minute. But we have weekly meetings between the Comet team, the RapDev team, and the Swiftly team, actually every Wednesday morning just before this meeting, actually, to go through and delve into the data conflicts, data reconciliation and gaps and the like. It's becoming quite beneficial in identifying issues that need to be resolved that actually impact the reporting of on-time performance. In some cases, it's not necessarily it's identifying the data inaccuracies that in part result in the report of about a 45% OTP. And then we've also done some preliminary analysis with the limited data that we currently have and the limited confidence we have in that data at the moment to look at opportunities of where we could actually improve on-time performance based on empirical data we're collecting from the field. This next item here is one that we just identified, frankly, yesterday evening and discussed at length this morning with the team, that we've also now identified through the use of the Swiftly software that and it's related to what's called run patterns, where you can actually see empirically, you can see what the bus and operator did versus what they should have done per the timetable as far as travel patterns, the actual route. We've identified that there are some issues with what's called turn by turns, the actual paddle document per se that the operator has that says, turn left at this intersection, turn right at that intersection. No, you go straight through this intersection. You stop at this stop at the transit center. Those are turn by turn directions. There is clearly a conflict between what the document, the paddle that the operator gets, and the data that is being presented to them on board the bus through the mobile data terminal, through the strategic mapping system. There's clearly conflicts between those two. One says turn right, one says turn left, and in most cases the operator has to choose. And for the more senior operators, they rely on their experience and go, I know where this route was supposed to go. But some of the newer operators have to pick and choose, okay, what's that point of truth? And as an example, this is the Route 47 that on the right here is the what's published in your timetable. You'll see in the circle there's a pattern the green line. And then on the left is what the data that we're actually capturing off the bus, the GTFS feed, the positioning, the global positioning data. This is showing the actual pattern of the bus. And as you can see, there's and I apologize, I can't get my cursor up there. There you can see a different pattern. There's a triangular shape across the center of the circle there that does not exist on your timetable. This is one example. We are seeing several examples, orders of magnitude, more than a dozen routes where there are, I'll call them pattern deviations through the use of this Swiftly software and the ability to replay the vehicle's path. We're seeing several routes where these travel patterns are inconsistent with what's published in the public timetable. And as I said, preliminary is we need to delve deeper into this because we just identified this yesterday evening.
Now, let me ask you something. I know I don't
Yes.
expect to be able to interpret these charts in detail, but on the live operation map, the little circles, are those stops?
Yes, ma'am. Those
And
are
so-
those are
and so
time.
what
Those
I'm
are
looking at-
points. Yes.
So I'm looking at the public timetable, and there's definitely a lot fewer of those. Am I reading that right?
Yes, you are.
What does that mean?
Thank you, Ms. Mood. That's actually a good say. One of the other issues we've identified is there are many more time points assigned at the Comet than frankly are traditional in the transit industry. You obviously have a beginning and ending time point, and then there are time points typically assigned along the route that allow the operator, you can between those two time points, you obviously have traffic signals, other issues that can affect the timeliness, but it allows for enough running time that between, I'll pick a number, between these 7 or 8 stops, they can run a few minutes late and then catch up and be on time at the next time point. At the Comet, it appears that almost every stop has a time point in the system. That's in my professional opinion, too granular. It's improbable in all likelihood because of traffic conditions, weather conditions, other environmental influences, that you're never going to hit every bus stop on time. And that's why you frankly don't measure OTP to that level of granularity. We're working through that issue as well. But this travel pattern issue just came up last night. Frankly, it's an aha moment because it explains a lot of the anomalies that we were trying to understand over the last couple weeks.
Well, because what you're describing for us in this picture is that the bus is actually going down a road and a route that we don't even show on the timetable.
That's it. That is it. That is what's happening. And it happens, I won't say randomly, but it is clearly, I believe you could assign certain decisions and travel patterns to different operators, that the operator that runs this route at 10:30 in the morning, let's say, may follow the pattern, and then the operator at 11 may deviate and follow that more straight line and do a deviation, thinking that they're doing the right thing.
I'm sure. But I mean, I can hardly even follow in my mind at what that would look like in terms of the bus going, because certainly if the time expectations, the on-time performance expectations are as if the route were running on the public timetable, and you have as significant a deviation as you have in the actual, there's no way you could meet the on-time performance for sure.
This is a huge part of the explanation, at least, as to why you're seeing 40 to 45%
Okay.
Now, the solutions, we need to drill down. We need to get way down into the weeds with this data, because of all of the technologies that you have overlaid at the Comet. We've got to find out, is this strategic mapping merely the device that is communicating the turns to the operator, and it's being created by some other technology downstream, or exactly where is that point of truth, so to speak? Where is it being created? That's oftentimes not easy. Takes some time to figure out. And then how are these other technologies interpreting this, and then to get it published to the customer?
Sure.
It's
pretty complex.
It's a detailed, yeah. There's several moving parts to this. All that being said, you can't do it quickly either. This is a pretty complex Gantt chart that we have put together and are using to manage what we've called the on-time performance enhancement program. The blue bars, quickly, the blue bars were our original thoughts and plans. The gray hashtag excuse me, bars are actually the adjusted schedule. And you can see that as we get down into the current steps 8, 9, 10, you can begin to see some pretty lengthy extensions in our projections on time. That is solely attributed to us peeling back that proverbial layers of the onion again. And as we turn over these stones and go, oh my goodness, we found this issue with the data, we have to go through this data cleansing process to calibrate on every single source of truth. And that last line, and line number 15, the original target that the committee and the board had set out for us was, the hope was all of this could get resolved by the start of the fall semester of University of South Carolina. I'm here to tell you, we're trying our best, but we are just simply not going to hit that date. We are now, with the data, the efforts needed to go through with regard to the data cleansing, we're really trending now to a November, December timeframe. So I wanted to kind of give the committee a high level view of some of the trials and tribulations, so to speak, that we're going through, but it is a very detailed and complex analysis that needs to be done in order to establish those, as I keep calling them, those single points of truth.
So are there any other questions for Mr. Hubble at this point? Is anybody on the committee have questions for Mr. Hubble? Okay. Well, I would just say what we want is for all of the work that you're doing to have some really clear and positive results. And so the effort that gets put into it, I know will determine a lot of that. And so can be patient with that deep digging if it gets us to the answers to questions that have plagued us for a long time.
And they really have. These have been unknown issues for, frankly, likely many years.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I've got to give the team credit, the Comet team, Leroy and his team, and Maurice and his team. There's really been a coming together over the last several months we are now talking about real issues and not, the fighting, they're no longer mad at each other. This is really become a problem solving group.
Well, and not just speculation or guessing either, but really having
Correct.
something to work with.
Or finger pointing. It's everybody has accepted the issues and everybody feels like they have contribution to solutions. So the team is really, although many of these issues are complex, difficult, not easily solved, there has been a coming together between the two teams that has really continued to move this on. So this is just a quick list of kind of near term over the next month or so. We just talked about the strap map and Swiftly data validation. That is first and foremost, trying to get that in done and staked in the ground. We'll be reviewing the assessment, the in momentum assessment that's going to be presented to us on the 27th of July. And then we will start, RapDev has agreed to provide the resources, the infield resources necessary to initiate the validation of the APC system, the automatic passenger counter. That has to be provided to the FTA for their concurrence. That will provide you real-time passenger information. And then we'll move into, hopefully with the data validation and cleansing completed, we can then move into actually using the Swiftly software to do those empirical runtime analyses and adjustments. And with that, Madam Chair, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. And are there further questions for Mr. Hubble? All right.
Madam Chair, yes, I do.
Yes, Mr. Fergus.
The only question I have is that when this gonna be completed, keep moving. It's a moving date, because we were told by June, we're in July. Now I'm hearing November and December. So we probably need to refer this whole operation back to the board.
Well,
because I don't have any clue as to what we're trying to accomplish when we know all the routes will be changing again, either with the transit movement,
Well, I think you're right that the board will need to be and will be fully briefed on this too, in terms of where they are with the process. What I'm hearing is that that in the process, from Mr. Hubble's report, they are discovering things that will take some effort to change. But I'm relieved that we are actually not just looking at such a discrepancy between the expectations of on-time performance and the actual, that we're actually getting at the meat of what's contributing to that in ways that we might do something about it. And if we can do that, I think the difference between a September completion and a November completion sort of pales in terms of importance if we're actually arriving at real solutions.
I think the entire board needs to be a little more involved in this, because this isn't done by volunteer services. We're paying for this service, and it keep growing.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that Mr. Hubble's report to us certainly does not exclude all of this being reported completely to the board itself, to the full board. And Pam, I just confirm with you that Mr. Hubble's slides will become part of the record of this meeting, will they? Yeah, yes, I'm getting a nod from her, yes, okay. And then, we will leave it with Pam and Mr. Hubble and Leroy to see about the board chairman about how this fits onto the full board agenda.
Ms. Mood,
Yes.
I got to hop off in 5 minutes, but
Sure.
I would request, can we skip to F for a quick Lucius Road super
Yes.
stop update?
Yeah, I
And
think
before
both of them are going to be quick, but
Okay.
thank you, Will.
Yes, ma'am.
But we can do
Thank
those
you.
in opposite order would be fine.
Appreciate it.
And Eric will be updating Eric and Leroy on both of those. So Eric, you and Leroy want to address Lucius Road first and then the long range plan?
Absolutely. Well, it's more so kind of combined, and I can give just
Okay.
overall update.
Okay.
So we have reached out to the City of Columbia to schedule a meeting just to discuss both projects. We plan to include Jared Walker and Associates and also Brownstone, who's managing the Lucius and River project. In that discussion, it's a lot of takeaways that we want to be able to get out of that. But of course, there are several moving parts that need to be integrated with Reimagine the Comet nearing the final stages of its process and trying to include the best practices of transit with the construction of Lucius and River. Right now, we are in the process of working with District 1 to ensure all signal plans are in compliance with federal warrants in the MUTCD. We are awaiting cost estimates so we can include the signal in our project scope. The information we have received is that the signal it was not included in this year's SCDOT's fiscal budget. So we're looking at alternative ways to make things happen. And of course, working with City of Columbia closely, we are just trying to, again, manage expectations and see what we can do to fast track the process.
So DOT is not, they don't have a budget for the signal. And
No, so we provided the check.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ms. Wu. Go ahead.
No,
You have a line item, construction number. You have a price for that, correct?
The price for the
light.
For the signal, for the traffic signal.
We're still awaiting for the cost estimate.
Okay, and our consultants are working on that, Brownstone and the team.
Yes, we're working on that.
When's your requested meeting with the city to take place?
We requested a meeting about 3 weeks ago originally. And so after that, they communicated to us that there are a few people they want to engage in the conversation. And so we drafted a memo requesting another meeting. Now we're in the process of still coordinating schedules. We hope that we have this meeting between, I guess, now and next week. So it looks promising.
Who's the point? What department's the point of contact for you?
City of Columbia.
Yes, sir. Krista. Okay. So what is that? What's the long range schedule look like now? I mean, I asked y'all a couple, maybe a couple months ago. Has anything changed with that timeline?
Yeah, it has. Right now we are about 60 days behind schedule. We were hoping to have we were hoping to finish construction by September. So as of right now, that pushes us back, towards almost November. So we have
of 2021.
Of 2021, correct.
Okay.
Worth asking.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So permitting and you see construction taking 90 days, basically, is what you're saying?
Yep. From what was previously communicated.
Okay. Wonderful.
Once we issue the notice to proceed, we'll get more of an updated schedule and we can provide that to the committee.
Okay.
So
wonderful.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm gonna reach out, Ms. Mood, to city staff to make sure it's a priority to get with Mr. Harris and his team.
Okay, and I'm kind of at a loss at what happens if you have to have who has to take responsibility for funding something that's not in the DOT budget? And I guess that's what the meeting is about.
Well, it's a combination. So right now, we understand that SC, well, that will fall into the budget of us. We have a little wiggle room for the Lucius and River Stop. And so just being able to work through those components is really the issue, because it still has to meet the MUTCD requirements. And so we just trying to lay that out. The City of Columbia definitely has a lot of resources, but the one big caveat is Reimagine the coming on board. Much of their plans included Sumter and Laurel as the point of destination. But now that we have plans to spread out some of those routes, it definitely challenges how we want to go through the implementation stage. So having them a part of the discussion definitely be warranted. And we will see how the conversation goes. I suspect that it should be pretty fulfilling.
Great, thank you.
You all right with that, Mr. Brennan? Okay, thank you for your help on that too. All right, so that really concludes everything on our agenda, unless committee members have additional questions or comments. Then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I move we adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
And we stand adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.